Hi there, my name is Chris and I'm the head technician and trainer here at Embroidery Systems. Today we're going to go through a demo on the Melco EMT16X embroidery machine. The Melco EMT16X is the latest iteration on Melco's modular embroidery system. Unlike conventional multi-head embroidery machines that all run off of the same drive, Melco believes in a modular system where you can add as many machines as you like to one system and separate them into whatever configuration you need. For example, you can have 4 heads sewing all the same design, 4 heads sewing separate designs, 2 and 2, and so on. About 20 years ago, Melco decided to get away from the conventional multi-head machine as they found it wasn't very efficient. A conventional multi-head machine, whether it's 4, 6, 8, or 12 heads, all of those heads have to sew the same design at the same time. They all stop at the same time. They all start at the same time. So if you get a thread break on one head, all of the other heads in your production are stopped until you fix the problem on that one head and then carry on. With a modular system, it's okay if one machine stops for a thread break because the other machines in your configuration are going to keep sewing and keep performing. The EMT16X is a 16 needle machine, so that means you can have 16 different colors of thread on the machine at any given time. The machine still only sews one color at a time, just like any other embroidery machine, but it means you're less often having to switch cones of thread from job to job. Another area that Melco has made a lot of innovations is in something called ActiFeed. So this is the method of getting the thread to the needle. Traditional embroidery machines are very similar to other sewing machines where they use a tension spring that you tighten or loosen to determine how much thread the needle pulls into the stitch. The tighter that spring, the harder it is to pull the thread through, so the tighter the stitch. The looser the tension, the more thread gets fed into the stitch because it's easier for the needle to pull the thread through. One of the drawbacks to a tension-based machine is that it can be difficult to get consistent tension from one needle to the next or from one embroidery head to the next. So Melco's idea was to come up with a way to feed the thread to the needle rather than forcing the needle to pull the thread through a spring. And that's what ActiFeed is. With ActiFeed, everything is handled electronically by the machine. Now, how does the machine know how much thread to feed to the needle? Well, some of it is just based on the stitch length that's digitized into the design, but you also need to take into account the thickness of the material. So while the design is sewing, the machine is detecting how tight the thread is or how loose the thread is, and it's making adjustments on the fly to add more or less thread as needed. So for example, if you go over the seam of a hat, the ActiFeed will suddenly determine that there needs to be more thread here because the stitches are starting to get tight, and it'll feed extra thread to get over the seam of the hat. And then when it's off the seam of the hat, it'll suddenly realize that, oh, there's too much thread now, we need to back off, and it goes back to what it was before. Arguably one of the most exciting new features on the EMT16X is the needle plate trimming system. With this system, the knives are located right underneath the needle plate, so they're very close to your garment, which means that the tails that are left over after a trim are incredibly short. Also, because of the materials Melco has used in this trimming system, the knives virtually self-sharpen and need very little maintenance. It also means that it's a very robust trimming system, very reliable. The trims are consistent, the pickups after a trim are consistent, but it doesn't compromise the size of the lower arm that Melco has been known for in its last few generations. The lower profile of this arm makes it easier to embroider on things like golf club covers, children's clothes, pockets, and other things that are usually difficult to embroider. This machine has a top speed of 1,500 stitches per minute. The general recommended running speed is 1,250 stitches per minute. I always say it's like your car's top speed. Not every road is drivable in those conditions, but if you have the right conditions, crank it up. But enough about specs. Let's actually load a design into the machine and show you how easy it is to set up and get running. All right, so here we have an EMT16X connected to a Windows PC running Melco OS, which is the proprietary software that operates the machines. With Melco OS, you can have any number of Melco machines running in any kind of combination, but we're just going to stick with a single head for right now. As you can see, there's a design loaded on the screen. Whichever design you see on the screen is the design that the machine is ready to run. So if I just put an embroidery hoop on the machine right now and press start, that's the design that it's going to sew. But I'm not going to sew that design, I want to sew something different, so let's go through the steps of how that works. All right, so in the software, to load in a new design, we're going to go to File and Load Design. Then we're going to pick the design that we want to sew out. In this case, this bass fish is what I've decided to sew out. And that's going to load in. Once the design loads in, all you have to do is address anything in this right-hand bar that needs to be addressed. So let's start at the top. So when you purchase your machine, you're going to get a selection of different sizes of embroidery hoops. So this is what holds your garment and attaches it to the machine while it sews. The reason that you get so many different sizes is because you generally want to have the smallest hoop possible that will fit the design and fit on your garment. What you're seeing on screen here are two solid lines and a dotted line. The two solid lines represent the actual physical hoop, and the dotted line is kind of the safety area, the sewable or traceable area that will allow the design to fit inside that hoop. So let's see if there's a smaller hoop that fits this design. Let's try the 15. That works. Still fits within the dotted line. So now I know I can use a 15 centimeter hoop without causing any damage to the machine sewing this particular design. The next option is speed. So as I said before, the top speed of the machine is 1500 stitches per minute. The general operating speed is 1250 for flat goods. So that's almost anything that you sew in a normal hoop. When you're sewing hats, it's usually a better idea to slow down a little bit. So 1000 stitches per minute is what's recommended. But again, like I said, if the conditions are right, you can speed up. If the conditions aren't so great, if you've got a poorly digitized design or difficult material to sew through, you can always slow down. So those are just your general guidelines. It's 1250 for flats, 1000 for hats. So next up is color sequence. So this is telling the machine which needle to sew on for each individual piece of the design. The design that we see on screen has colors assigned to it, but that doesn't necessarily mean we have to use those exact colors. Those colors are there as a representation to let us know which section of the design is which color. To set the color sequence, we're going to click on the color sequence button, which opens up this window, which I'm going to pull to the side just so I can see my design underneath. The first thing we're going to do is clear out the color information from the previous design so we can start fresh. To the right, you'll see this is a picture of the thread tree of the machine, with the colors numbered. You can also customize these colors by right-clicking on them and choosing from any major thread manufacturer's thread chart so that you can assign to the software the exact color of thread that is on that needle. Down here at the bottom, we have color blocks indicating the order that the colors sew out in. So this is the way that the design was digitized. So the first color that sews out is white, then blue, and then so on. We can also see what this looks like by clicking on Step Forward, which will show us one color at a time, the order that the design sews out. So to set the color sequence, we just need to click on the buttons here in the order that we want them to sew out in. So in this machine, our white is on needle 16, light blue is on 6, dark green is on 5, and so on. As long as you've assigned a needle position to every color in the design, in this case all 7, then we're ready to continue. Click Apply and OK. The tools here in this section of the window we don't always necessarily need to use, so we'll ignore those for now. We don't need them for this particular job. The next section is ActiFeed. So like I said, the machine does 99% of the work in terms of determining how thick the material is and how much thread to feed for the different thicknesses of the material that it encounters. One thing we do try to control is the lowest possible setting that the thread feed will go to prevent thread breaks and other mishaps from happening. So depending on the thickness of the material, you raise this minimum preset number to somewhere that's close to the thickness of the material in points, which is about 1/10 of a millimeter. Once you've used the machine for a while on a variety of different materials, you'll start to understand what setting to put this at for different materials. We're going to put it at 2 because we're sewing on something fairly thin. Everything else in this window is for monitoring the sew out while it happens. It tells you what stitch number you're on, how far along you are in the design, etc. So at this point, we're ready to hoop our garment and put it on the machine. All right, the embroidery hoop comes in 2 pieces, a ring and the upper part of the hoop. We're going to use some cutaway backing or stabilizer just underneath the layer we're going to sew on. Then place the ring under the stabilizer. The upper hoop has a cutout here. That goes on the machine in the upper right, so that's how you can tell from the hoop which way is up. We're just going to press in to that ring, securing the stabilizer, filling the whole hoop. Now that our garment is hooped, we're ready to slide it onto the machine. The sides of the hoop slide into the arms of the machine like so, and then we just want to make sure that nothing's been folded over or tucked underneath because we don't want to sew the garment to itself. Now often when you hoop a garment, you may make a mark where you want the design center to be. This will help you line it up to make sure that it sews in the right spot. With the EMT16X and other Melco machines, there's a laser that will show you where the center of the design is at any given time. So if we press this little button here, you'll see that the laser shines down onto the fabric to show us where our center mark is. Now if the laser isn't right over the mark that we made, we can move the hoop and move the design inside the hoop by pressing the hoop key and any of the 4 arrows to line it up exactly where we want it to be. Now another benefit to the laser is there's a trace feature, which will have the laser show us the exact outline of the design so that we can confirm that it fits inside the hoop, that we actually put the right hoop on the machine because we told it it's a 15 centimeter, but it doesn't know if we put the wrong size on. So the trace helps us see that we've got the design fitting inside the hoop and that it's placed exactly where we want it to go. All right, now that we are happy with the trace, the color sequence, the hoop size, the speed, we just press the green button and away we go. So now you can see that the machine is sewing on the needle that we assigned in the color sequence. When it's finished this section of the design, the machine is going to stop, it's going to trim, and it's going to move on to the next color. So in a normal production setting, while this design is sewing out, you're cleaning up the previous design that came off the machine, unhooping it, cutting the backing, trimming any little bits of thread that need to be trimmed up, bagging the garment, setting it aside, and then preparing the next garment in that same hoop to go on the machine next. This is why you get 2 of each hoop, so that you can be hooping the next garment while the current one is sewing. In the beginning, though, it's hard not to get hypnotized by just watching the design sew out. So I'm going to leave this on the screen while we talk about some other features of the machine. One interesting feature in the software is a setting called Display Stitches Sewn. When you check this, the software is going to draw the design on the screen in the software at the same time that the design is sewing out on the machine. This can help you monitor the progress of a design from across the room or from a totally different room if you have multiple monitors set up. And it can also help you find a specific spot in the design if you had an issue where you had to stop the design partway through and then go back to that at a later point. It also just looks cool. Okay, while the design's sewing out, let's talk about what comes with the purchase of the EMT16X. Of course, you get the machine. Hard to embroider without that. It also comes with the stand that it sits on. The stand is designed specifically for the machine to minimize vibration and excess movement. Also included is the operating software, Melco OS, that we've just talked about. This provides you with the hub of operations for not only the machine you buy now, but any machines you add on in the future. This means that future machines that you add will actually cost you less since you don't need to buy more software to run them. You're just adding units into the system. You will also receive Melco's Design Shop digitizing software. Digitizing is the method of converting a two-dimensional graphic file into the specialized three-dimensional stitch file that's required by embroidery machines. Digitizing is a very specialized art form, and it can take some time to master, so we encourage new embroiderers to outsource their digitizing needs, at least in the beginning, but we want to provide you with the tools to do it yourself if you decide to later on. Design Shop is also a powerful design editing program and also has a comprehensive lettering tool to allow you to customize designs without having to know a lot about digitizing. Because Design Shop is made by Melco, it works seamlessly with Melco OS and Melco machines. Your machine also comes with the 4 most standard hoop sizes and 2 of each so that you can be hooping the next garment while the current one is on the machine. This includes the 3 most common round hoops for left chest size designs, 12 centimeter, 15 centimeter, and 18 centimeter, and the 36 by 30 centimeter jacket back hoop for larger designs. There are a lot more hoop sizes available, as well as clamping systems, fast frames, magnetic hoops, etc. But the package that comes with the machine will give you what you need to get started. As you encounter jobs that require a different hooping solution, we're happy to help you find a product that will suit your needs. Most embroiderers will need to sew on hats at some point, so your machine comes with everything you need to sew hats. You will receive a cap driver, which is the attachment that allows you to sew hats on the machine, and 2 cap frames, which are your hat hoops. You also get what's called a cap gauge, which is a mount that you use to hoop the hats onto the cap frames. All of the cables required to power the machine and to connect it to your PC are also included. Melco machines connect to the PC using an available Ethernet port on your computer. For a single machine, we will provide you with an Ethernet crossover cable, and for a multi-head machine, we will use an Ethernet hub and connect that to your machines and your PC with standard Ethernet cables. We will provide all of that for you so you don't have to think about it. An operator's toolkit is also included. This contains some spare parts as well as tools used to do things like changing needles, adjusting the bobbin case, and to remove some of the covers to perform the scheduled maintenance. It also includes the oil and the grease that will be required for that maintenance. One of the great things about the Melco OS software and the Melco machines is that the software will notify you when it's time to perform operator-based maintenance, like oiling the hook, adjusting cable tensions, and things like that. And it will walk you through each maintenance process step by step, with the machine automatically moving into the next position for you, making maintenance on the machine about as foolproof as possible. Every brand new machine that we sell comes with 2 days of training. This can be held on site, so wherever your business is, or at any of our offices across the country, whichever is more convenient for you. We insist on training our customers because we want everyone to have the best experience possible with their machine, and we want you to avoid as many of the pitfalls as possible that come with learning new technology and new skills. New machines also come with a 2-year parts and labor warranty, and we provide unlimited telephone and email support for as long as you own the machine. If after using your machine for a while you feel like you could use some extra training above and beyond those initial 2 days, we provide additional training in our Calgary office for free. We know from our own experience and the experience of our customers that this business is a constant learning curve. And while we can point you to dozens of videos and PDF files and websites covering specific topics, some people simply benefit from having some extra one-on-one training. So if you can get to our Calgary office, we can spend as much time as you need discussing things like advanced digitizing, specialized embroidery techniques, alternate hooping methods, etc. A major focus for us, and what sets us apart from our competitors, is the level of service and support that we provide after you've bought your machine. There are a lot of really good embroidery machines on the market, but where we set ourselves apart is in that service and care afterwards. We want you to get the most out of your machine, and we want you to become successful. So don't hesitate to ask us for help or advice at any time. If you're new to the embroidery business, when you buy your first machine, you're also going to need some supplies, and we've got you covered there too. We carry a wide range of supplies from bobbins, backing, needles, thread, scissors, spray adhesives. And we can put together a starter kit of these supplies to go with your machine so that you have everything you need to get going. All right, so according to the software, we have about 2 minutes until the design finishes sewing. So let me take a moment to tell you about our different offices across the country. Our main office is located in Calgary, Alberta. This is also our main warehouse, so all of the machines and all of the supplies ship out of Calgary. Every machine that we sell throughout the country comes through our warehouse first, where we do a quick pre-delivery inspection and we do a quick test sew out on it to make sure that it survived the trip from the United States, and then we send it out to our customer. We also have certified Melco technicians and trainers in Guelph, Ontario, Fredericton, New Brunswick, Montreal, Quebec, and in Puerto Rico. To contact your nearest representative, go to embroiderysystemscanada.com, click on Contact, and you'll find all the information that you need. You can also call us toll-free at 1-888-805-8631, and we'll happily direct you to the right person. Okay, so the design is done sewing, so we need to take that hoop off the machine. If we were working in a production environment, we would have the next garment ready to go to load that on the machine, do a trace, and press start. All of the other setup we've already done. Now that we've taken our hoop off the machine, we can take the hoop off of the garment. Then we just need to cut away our backing. Thanks again for joining me for this virtual demo of the EMT16X. If you have any questions at all, please contact us. My name is Chris. I'm the head technician and trainer. You can reach me at chris@embroiderysystems.com, or if you want a quote or you have any questions about supplies or anything like that, you can reach us at any of the contact information that you see on the screen. If you're watching this as part of an online trade show, you'll see that there's links to contact us to set up one-on-one appointments, Zoom meetings, and that sort of thing. Please take advantage of those. We'd love to talk to you and get you going in this embroidery business. Thank you very much. Have a great day.